me get that started. So lectures are all going to be recorded. None of the lectures are going to be published publicly or anything like that. So you don't have to worry about like privacy concerns or anything. They're going to be on my YouTube with a private link and only shared back to the class. So if you have any questions or concerns about that, just let me know privately. Cool. So my name is Sresht. I'm going to be the professor for 490 this semester, and welcome to the class. I've been at NJIT for about 6 months now. So I taught 435 last time, and now I'm teaching 490. Cool. So I'm going to share my screen and some of my slides that I have. All right. Can everyone see my screen and slides? All right, let's keep going then. Cool. So today's lecture is going to be on welcoming you. We're going to talk about the syllabus and set up some tools. This might be different from some of your other syllabus lectures that you've had. This is going to be super important. Pay attention because the syllabus is going to be different. This class is going to be different. The tools we're going to use are going to be different. So let's make sure that we are paying attention to the best of your abilities. Also, huge apologies for all the confusion about the class timings. I'm really sorry about that. I was sending emails while I was tired and I shouldn't have been doing that. And today was a long, hard day and I shouldn't have confused you twice. But I'm super glad that everyone showed up. I'm very impressed by that. So kudos to all of you for coming anyway. Awesome. So let's get going. So our objectives today are going to be a brief intro to EIR, expectations for the virtual classroom, technology setup, class philosophies, and then homework. So yes, you do have homework. It shouldn't take that long, but you're gonna have homework every single lecture, and it's only gonna be like 10 to 20 minutes usually, so shouldn't be too long, but this homework today is especially important for you to succeed in this class. So quick question. Who in this class has had me before? Raise your hand if you've had me for CS 435 before. All right, that looks like a decent amount of people. Fewer than the last session, actually. So this looks like about 10 people, or like 7 people. Okay. And I do see some other people towards the bottom who haven't raised their hands, but I do recognize their names and I did have them. There's 2 people who still haven't raised their hands, but I'm not going to call them out. No, 3 people who haven't raised their hands, but they did have me. Cool. So about 10, 12 people have had me for CS 435. And this slide should look familiar to you. For those of you who are new, every single one of my lectures is going to have a slide called Why Do We Care? So this is basically going to explain why today's topic is going to be either important to success in the class or, more importantly, success as an engineer in industry. So let's get started with the Why Do We Care today? Oh, let me erase the answers I wrote for the last class. Well, sorry. You'll probably see me doing this a lot because my class for you guys is 10 minutes after my last class, so I don't have time to prep between. Cool. So why do we actually care? We're not even going to be talking about software engineering. I don't think I'm going to mention those words today. So isn't this a complete waste of time, like talking about the syllabus? Like, why do we care about talking about that? And then the second question is, why should we set up our accounts and software now instead of just doing it on the fly right before we actually do the project or homework? So feel free to unmute yourself and answer one or both questions here.
I mean, just getting your account set up and everything now means if there's a problem in that process, you don't have massive delays that prevent you from completing whatever project on time if you wait until the last second to do that. So you just take care of whatever bugs will appear there now.
Absolutely. Thank you, Jason. Or was that Jason or was that someone else? Um,
That was Jason.
Great, awesome. Thank you. So as Jason said, we want to avoid delays later down the road. The stakes are pretty low today. Like if something goes wrong with our setup, then it's not a big deal. But if you message me the night before project one is due and you're like, hey, I didn't get AWS Cloud 9 set up when I should have. Can I get an extension? You can probably guess what my answer is going to be to that. So like we're gonna get everything set up today so that going forward we can really hit the ground running. So that was the answer to the second one. So what about the first question? Why do we talk about the syllabus? Like is the syllabus is just like 12 sheets of paper. Well, you can just read it on your own time. Why are we talking about that today?
I would think just so we're both on the same page of your expectations and what we should expect from this class and what we should know by the end of this class.
Absolutely. So being on the same page about everything. So the syllabus, like it's basically the contract. It's like if I were an employer, it's basically my contract telling you what you have to do as part of this job. And the payment is basically your grade. So if you do your job exactly right, you're going to get an A. If you do it mostly right, you're going to get a B, et cetera, et cetera. So we want to set up those expectations early and we want to make sure that we're both on the same page and there aren't any confusions there. Also, if something doesn't work for you in the syllabus, then let me know. It's an open conversation that all of us can have. So, Navarro and Jason have already pointed out, the syllabus is basically a step-by-step guide of how to succeed in this class. And it's also important to get the tools set up now so that we don't get slowed down later when the stakes are actually pretty high. So let me start by just telling you a little bit more about me. So as a person, I grew up in Michigan. I moved there when I was about 8, and I went to high school, middle school, elementary school, all those things. And I grew up there until about 18. I don't think anyone else here is from Michigan. I would be pretty surprised. But shout out to any of you who are from the Mitten, because that would be pretty cool. But from Michigan, I ended up moving to Massachusetts, to specifically Boston, where I went to school. My story in school was very strange. I actually went and wanted to be a material science engineer. That was going to be my major, and I was like pretty excited about that when I like had my acceptance letter and everything. So I went to school on the first day of school class, and I went to chemistry and physics classes. And then I realized that I am really bad at them. Like I totally sucked at both of those subjects. And I didn't like them either. I was like, this doesn't click well with me, and I don't think they're interesting subjects. Um, so I was back to square one, and I was like, I don't know what to study anymore. So it was kind of an accident that I fell into computer science because I just looked around at all my friends, and I was like, what do you guys want to study? And everyone was like, I'll study this thing or I'll study computer science because everyone else is studying computer science. For some background, I think 45% of my college graduated with computer science. So like CS was like a huge degree at my school. So I was just like, okay, I have no other ideas and I'm out of ideas, so I'm just gonna go and try a computer science class. So I took an intro to Python class. It was a 1 credit class over 6 weeks. And all it was basically like how to do for loops and how to do while loops. And I was like, oh my God, this makes so much sense to me. And this is like the first subject other than math that actually clicks for me. So I kind of stumbled my way into computer science randomly with no real rhyme or reason why. And I'm really glad I did because as a software engineer, I'm realizing that this is like the only industry that actually would work for me. So that's kind of my background and my story of how I got into computer science. So in 2015, after graduating, I actually went and worked at Athena Health. Um, it's a small company in Boston. It's like a healthcare electronic medical records company. So I ended up working there for a year. Then I went to Google for 6 months. Google was not a good fit for me. Like I had some problems with my manager. I had some problems with my team, and I wasn't doing super well. So I ended up leaving Google and going to Facebook. I've been at Facebook and I'm still at Facebook now for the last like 3-ish years. And I've really liked my time here, and I would be remiss if I weren't at Facebook right now. And then in the last 6 months, so since September, I believe, of last year, or wait, sorry, since January of this year, January 2020, I've been at NJIT, and I taught CS 435, and this time I'm teaching CS 490. So that's just a little intro about me. My name is pronounced Sresht. You can call me Sresht. You can call me Professor. I prefer if you just call me by my first name, but you can call me whatever you want, as long as it's not mean, and I'll probably respond to it. Any questions about me? Sweet. Let's keep going then. Where did you say I went to school? So I went to high school and middle school in Michigan, and then I went to university at MIT in Boston. Cool. And I want to check if Sean is here. Cool, Sean is here. So apologies, but I'm gonna have to stop mirroring and start mirroring multiple times today. For whatever reason, it keeps getting stuck. So I'm gonna try to figure that out. But here's a screen about the different TAs in our class. So we have 3 TAs. We have George, Christiana, and Sean. George is going to be the TA who attends section 3 lectures. His fun fact was he once accidentally chugged hydrogen peroxide thinking it was water. He said it was accidental, but I think he was just trying to impress someone. He was at some party and just wanted to have some time, have a good time. So he chugged hydrogen peroxide and had a weird night apparently. Um, Christiana is going to be attending section 5 lectures. She is obsessed with Parent Trap so much so that she watches it with her brother every time they're both home apparently. And now keep in mind, she didn't tell me how often they're both at home. So in my head, I'm just imagining that they both like go to work and then they come back home and then like every night they just watch Parent Trap. But it's probably not the reality of the situation, but that's what's going on in my head. Sean is going to be the TA who attends Section 1's lectures. So Sean's actually here, and he used to be a jazz performance major, and he can play a mean trumpet. So if you're ever interested in music or learning more about that, then hit up Sean. Sean, you want to turn on your video and audio and just introduce yourself?
Yeah. Hey, how's it going, everybody? My name's Sean Weiss. Like I said, I used to be a big jazz performance major. Now I'm just finishing up my undergrad degree, currently doing like gamification for some VR work with eye therapy and eye tracking stuff. But I'm looking forward to working with everyone else in the class, and Suresh's class are always the best. So get excited.
Sweet. Thank you, Sean. So Sean actually mentioned a startup that he's working at right now. Feel free to message Sean and ask about the startup. It's actually an NJIT alum startup, and they're doing some pretty cool work. So I would definitely encourage you to reach out and talk to him about that if you're interested in that. So, yep, that's a little bit more about the TAs as well. Great. So I'm going to erase everything here. Awesome. So we already talked about who has had me or another EIR before. Does anybody want to talk about what the EIR program is and what the goals are? So as a reminder, the EIRs that you might have had besides me in the past might have been John Sai, Mikey, or Noah. So I'm not the only one. I'm the 4th EIR now. So like you can, like if anyone has experience, please feel free to share what it is and what the goals are. Man, y'all are shy. Like my last section was way more talkative than y'all.
Well, I never had it, but I think it's just like a connection between Facebook and NJIT to give us quote unquote better industry software engineers.
Okay, that's a good point. Connection between Facebook and NJIT to help industry learning. Okay. Novato, why does that help Facebook? What does Facebook gain from that?
Um, well, they get engineers or more software engineers that are better prepared to work at Facebook.
Okay. Gets more prepared engineers, definitely. And then they get potential employees. And like Novato mentioned, they're actually more prepared in some ways. What else? What else does Facebook gain from this? What about like, oh, go ahead, Andrew.
Oh, hey. So I was saying maybe it gives them insight onto like what we are thinking and feeling. Like we learn from you, but maybe you also have feedback for Facebook.
Okay, definitely. That's a super important one. And I'll add one last one, which is diversity. So the three things that I want to talk about are obviously this helps NJIT by giving real world experience, skills that are actually modern and very relevant to being a successful industry expert right now. Facebook, on the other hand, as part of this partnership, gets more prepared engineers. So like we know that we're actually there. We'll be working with you to get you more prepared for your day one job. And then we get insights into what people are doing individually. So if someone is like, hey, if a recruiter at Facebook is like, hey, do you know Amir Hassan? And I could be like, oh, I do know Amir. He was in my 435 class and he's also in my 490 class now. He's a really great student. And I could tell them what he's great at and what he's not great at and stuff like that. Also, on a more aggregated level, I could be like, oh, like this is what NJIT students overall struggle with. This could be reflective of what the industry overall, or what academia overall people are struggling with. And then lastly, NJIT is a very diverse school. It's very different from a lot of Facebook engineers who like tend to come from like MIT, Caltech, Stanford. People tend to think the same ways and don't think in outside of the box ways. So it's going to help with that diversity because now you have an opportunity to go through me to apply to Facebook if you're interested in applying to Facebook. So getting that diversity of opinions, thoughts, etc., is going to be super important. So here's the EIR mission. I'm not going to go through that. Things that I want to also point out are, here's the Facebook diversity statistics. Right now, Black and Hispanic engineers only make up 5% of the workforce. That's very, very low. That's like embarrassingly low. So part of this program is going to diverse campuses such as NJIT to help with those numbers as well, and help people who are underrepresented, such as Black and Hispanic engineers, find their place in industry as well. The other thing I want to highlight is Arab and Middle Eastern students or engineers are not part of the statistic. They usually get lumped into like white / Asian / other. But I think that personally, I think that NJIT has a lot of diversity in the form of Middle Eastern students and Arab students. So that's something that I've been pushing for as well, that that is an underrepresented group in the industry as well. And it's really nice to see that at NJIT as well. And then on the global side, on the gender side, we have 23% of the technical workforce is women, and that's not great either. But unfortunately, NJIT isn't much better. I think it's actually less than 23% female. So like there are problems there, but we want to provide other avenues for the women at NJIT to find a place at Facebook. Now, this doesn't mean that if you are non-Black or non-Hispanic / non-female, you don't have a place at Facebook or anything like that. It's just why we've gone to NJIT, because these are it's a historically diverse campus. Does that make sense? Any questions so far? Sweet, let's keep going. So now we're going to talk about expectations for the virtual classroom. So we're pivoting and talking about tools now a little bit. So firstly, I'm glad you all made it today. If you have a friend who's registered for this class who's not here, just ping them on Discord with the link to the class and let them know that they're missing out on experiences and attendance points. So yes, this class is mandatory attendance. So please make sure that you just ping them and let them know that they're missing out. And that's all I wanted to say about that. Now we're going to talk about some Zoom features. And the most important features are that you keep yourself muted. And then I wanted to ask everyone to raise your hands. So you can press Alt-Y on Windows or Option-Y on Mac. And I'm not going to keep going until everyone in the class has raised their hands. All right, keep it raised, please. And then, yep, there's a fire drill. We all have to raise our hands. Raise them to the roof. All right, keep it raised. So I see Andrew, Brajesh Kumar, George, Jerry, Luis, Mohammed, Ronak, Root, Saksham, Sean, and Rushali. Can you, oh, you can't raise your hands on Ubuntu, Rushali? Weird. Okay. Try to raise your hands if you haven't. If I said your name out loud, it's because your name is, if you haven't been able to raise your hands. Okay, so those of you who are on Ubuntu, for whatever reason, you can't raise your hands. Interesting, I didn't know that. Yeah, is there a hand raising option in the interface or no? Okay. Interesting. Okay, if you're on Ubuntu, no worries. Don't worry about that. But for everyone else, glad that you raised your hands. I'm going to lower everyone's hands here and explain why we're going to use the raise your hands feature. So you're going to raise your hands for various different polls that I do in the class. So I might do like some informal polls to see like, hey, who's done their homework? Who's gotten this far on project one? Who knows this technology? Stuff like that. So I'll ask you to raise your hands, and that would be helpful just for general knowledge. The other thing I want you to do is keep yourself muted. Don't worry about the until I call you part, but keep yourself muted so that you don't have to, so that you're not interrupting everyone else. But whenever I ask for questions, feel free to unmute yourself to talk. Cool. Brajesh, was that a question or do you just have your hand raised to try it out? Okay, he just had his hand raised. Cool. Okay. The other thing about this class is we're going to have partner exercises throughout this class. So we're going to have different things where you have to accomplish a task with a group of 3. So I've already assigned you partners that you're going to have for the entire semester. You can find it on Canvas, or more easily, you can just find it on Slack. You'll be able to find it there. So what I want you to do for the next 5 minutes is you're not going to have enough time to interview other classmates. So what I want you to do is find those classmates, set up a group chat with them, either on Slack, Discord, Zoom chat, whatever you want to, but set up a Zoom chat with them and just say hi, set up a group chat with them and just say hi, introduce yourself, etc. Do that for 5 minutes, and then if you have extra time, ask them these different questions, like what their names are, what the weirdest thing happened over the summer, etc. We'll come back together about 1 p.m. and by then I expect everyone to have a group chat set up at least. All right, cool. So I hope everyone got set up on that on like a group chat of whatever Accord you want. I'm not going to force you to like use any particular technology or anything. So I think Dominic is still looking for like partners. So if anyone has a group of 2, message Dominic. If not, Dominic, you can just join any other group. Um, so I encourage you to just get to know your partners a little bit better. Here are some icebreaker questions, but you can get to know each other however you want. You're going to be working with these people during lectures for the rest of the semester. So make sure that you're actually getting to know them because you're going to see a lot of them over the next few months. Cool. So you probably didn't have any opportunity to like talk to your partners about like cool experiences or different meals or anything. So we'll just skip this for now. Let's go into our class tools. Okay, no worries if there's there was an actual fire drill. Okay, I thought you were just saying fire drill because everyone was raising their hands. Cool. It's okay if you missed the past few minutes, but someone probably sent you like a chat asking you to join a group chat. Make sure to register with your partners. Class tools. Okay. So we have a few different class tools that we have here. Some of the tools that we're going to use are Slack, Google Forms, and Cloud9. We're going to set them up today, and we're going to do that right now. It's not a virtual scavenger hunt. There's no first group of 2. Don't worry about any of that stuff. Don't worry about any of this, but we're going to set them up right now. We're going to set up Slack, Google Forms, and AWS Cloud9. So the first tool, Slack, is going to be used for almost all communication. It is required that you use Slack, and you might miss some announcements or some work if you only look at Canvas. So I need you to register on Slack, and I need you to use Slack regularly during the semester. Important announcements, homework help, updates, changes, class cancellation, everything will be on Slack, and that's the only guaranteed place that I'll be posting announcements. So make sure to do that. And then I will post things on Canvas as they come up, but Slack will be the best place for communication. Make sure to use the separate channels for specific questions. So use project 1 to ask questions about project 1, but search the entire channel before asking your questions. There's also general, where you can ask things that don't belong in any other channel. There's random for non-class related conversations where you're just kind of shooting the shit. And then announcements, where me and the TAs will just broadcast out messages that are important to the rest of you. So let's get started with getting these things set up. So one thing here is, sorry, let me change some stuff. Okay. So you should already be signed up for Slack, but if you're not, you should sign up for Slack right now with your first name and last name, not your alias, not your UCID, anything like that. And then you can sign up by going to slack.cs490lecture.com. Then you can go to section 001 to find the link to the syllabus quiz. And you should finish the syllabus quiz with your in-class partners. You'll each get 2 micropoints, and if you finish it, whenever you finish it, and you'll learn what the micropoints are while doing that syllabus quiz. So I'm going to give you 10 minutes to start working on the syllabus quiz. Don't worry if you don't finish, that's totally fine, but we'll regroup at about 1:15, at which point you can at which point we should come back and pay attention to the slides. All right, let's come back together now. It's okay if you haven't finished, but hopefully you got through your syllabus quiz. Like you made some progress on that. So as a reminder, please work on your diagnostic alone, and the syllabus quiz is what you should be working on together. Both of them are graded on effort, not on like on completion, basically. So please do your best on both of those. It's okay if you don't finish right now, but as soon as you finish, you'll all get 2 micro points each. Cool. So a quick recap. Was there anything interesting that you learned about the syllabus? Is there anything different about this class than usual classes that you might have?
So I found it interesting. So my name is Robert. I found it interesting how you have the whole write-up policy. Like a lot of classes that I've taken before, it's either like it's not handed in on time and it's out the window, like you get a 0. It's interesting because that's sort of like what you'd see in the workplace. Like you take responsibility for any delays that you have, and you have to work with your coworkers to figure that out.
Yeah, thank you for that, Robert. This is actually something I stole from a colleague who taught this class previously, not at NJIT, but at Morgan State University. She implemented the write-up policy for the exact reason that you mentioned. Because in the workplace, you don't just get to be like, cool, I didn't do my work, sucks. Like, I'll take a 0. There are no zeros in the workplace. You have to explain what happened. So that's what I'm getting you used to here as well. So great point. Anything else? Okay, let's keep going then. Let's see if you can answer these different questions then. So let's say, what is the late policy on homework, or sorry, on projects? Does anybody remember that? You can just type it in chat or unmute yourself.
Don't you have to submit a write-up about why you haven't completed it before before the deadline?
Yes. So thank you for that, Joseph. You do have to submit your write-up beforehand, and if you don't submit that write-up, what is your grade on the project? So let's say you don't submit your project on time and you don't submit a write-up. What are you going to get on the project?
Probably a 0.
Exactly. You're going to get a 0 if you don't have an excuse, you don't have a write-up, and you don't submit anything. That's an automatic 0, and you're halfway on your way to failing the class. So don't do that. Don't let that happen to you. Try your best not to let that happen. If you do submit a write-up, there is still a penalty unless you have like a medical excuse or some other excuse that you've worked with us previously for. But if you don't have an excuse, there's still a penalty even after doing the write-up, which is 20% off per day for 48 hours. After that, it's going to be a 0. So here are some instructions on what the write-up is going to be and everything like that. Yeah, so like it's basically going to be like these different things that you want to work through. The policies are basically 20% off per 24-hour extension up to 48 hours, including weekends, and same with project 2. And then project 3 is a group project, so there's no late days. If it's late, then your entire group gets a 0, and you don't want that. So make sure you don't do that. That would be very unfortunate. So make sure you're actually doing your projects on time. So a note on passing this class. This might be new based on your experience in other classes, but in order to pass this class, you need to obtain at least a 60% average in the class and at least a 65% average on projects 1 and 2. So let's say you get 100% on every homework assignment, you get 100 on the midterm, everything like that, and then you don't do projects 1 and 2, you'll automatically get an F in the class. So the reason behind this is project 3 is a group project. if projects 1 and 2 are ways that are going to lead you into doing well on project 3. So if you can't maintain a 65% average on projects 1 and 2, then you probably can't hold your own weight in the group project. So you won't be assigned a group for project 3 if you don't have a 65% average. And that means that we will actually end up like not being able to pass you in the class. Now, this is extremely unlikely that you fail the class because of poor performance. The more likely thing that might happen is if you, yes, oh, good point. Joel asked if projects 1 and 2 are individual. Yes, they are both individual, and project 3 is the group project. Projects 1 and 2 are quite simple. They're pretty easy to pass if you just put in effort and you just get the tools set up and do your own on your own. I'll make sure that if you do badly on projects 1 and 2 with enough effort, that you have like opportunities to make up for it. And it's very unlikely that you'll fail the class because of poor performance. Just make sure to actually do the projects and you should be fine. I designed the class to be very easy to pass, at least pass with consistent effort. And it's not meant to be like a weed out strategy. This isn't like a class where I'm like hoping that 50% fail. I think everyone should be able to pass this class as long as they're putting in the effort. So don't get stressed about it. Just do the projects and you'll be fine. Any questions about that? Okay, let's keep going then. So another thing about the late policy, daily homeworks can only be excused if you notify me or a TA via Slack or email at least 48 hours in advance. If you're sick, take care of yourself. Don't worry about this. And we'll make sure to, that you get your credit. This includes mental health as well, especially during COVID. Like, I don't want you to come to class and be like, I can't concentrate or focus right now because like I'm really like just not feeling class today or something like that. Just we'll work with you, but let us know as soon as you can, and we'll like make sure that there's something that you can do to get those points back. And then late policy, if there's extenuating circumstances, just send me a message on Slack or email. All right, next question. What 3 types of extra credit opportunities are there? Someone feel free to unmute yourself and talk about the extra credit opportunities.
The student teach as well as the micropoints.
Okay, student teach micropoints. Thank you, Vaishnavi. And we have one more. Did you see the last one?
It says extra credit problems on assignments / exams.
Yep, exactly. So extra credit problems on exams and homework. Yep. Cool. So someone want to talk about what the student teaches really quickly, like a 1-minute summary? Vaishnavi, maybe want to talk about that?
Yeah, so it's basically in regards to like making a lesson plan, summarizing the concept, and having like lecture notes that help understand it, and having like sample questions for that topic, as well as like just giving like a demo. So like a presentation of that topic and necessary questions accordingly.
Perfect. Yep. Excellent answer. She did a very thorough job of explaining what you need to do for the reteach. So there's a lot of steps to it. It's going to be a lot of work, but it's also worth a lot of points. It's worth 4% extra credit towards your final grade. You have to do this before November 15th, anytime starting tomorrow. Here's a to-do for me that I was supposed to do, but but yeah, you basically have to do this before November 15th. Do your regular work before this. This is way more effort than just doing your work and doing well on the projects. So just do your projects first, and that's going to benefit you a lot more than jumping into this. The other thing I wanted to talk about was micropoints. So micropoints are awarded for going above and beyond expectations. And here are some examples of how you might earn these. So you can ask detailed questions that help facilitate discussion on Slack or during lecture. You can make small demos of APIs and libraries to share with others. You might be able to post like documentation or something or additional resources about some of the technologies we're using. You can help others understand concepts on Slack. And you can also create reference materials for exams and projects that you create that help others. Micropoints aren't necessarily going to be rewarded every single time you do something awesome. I'm not just going to be like, I'm not going to be watching Slack like a hawk and making sure that everything, every single instance gets recognized. But great engagement overall should be recognized and will be recognized. If you feel like you're engaging a lot and you're not receiving micropoints, then just talk to me and we'll talk about what's going on. One thing I wanted to mention about micropoints is you can redeem 10 micropoints for 1% extra credit towards your final grade. Or alternatively, if you're happy with your grade or you have an A or something like that, you can just redeem them for like a month of some streaming service. So you could just be like, hey, I want a month of Spotify Premium. Can you pay for that for me? And I will do that. Keep it reasonable. Don't ask for YouTube TV. Don't ask for like something that's $100. I'm not going to pay your cable bill. But something lightweight you can you can also redeem using micropoints. Are memes rewarded with micropoints? Depends on the meme. So I'll leave that up to you as an exercise for the reader, let's say. Cool. And then the extra credit assignments on exams and assignments. These are going to be some extra credit assignments or extra credit problems. They're going to be much harder than the regular credit ones. So don't attempt those until you've actually finished the regular credit. Awesome. Cool. I wrote the answer here. Sorry. Are all classes synchronous? Anybody want to give this a thought?
Yes, they are.
Okay. And Adam, where are the classes going to be hosted?
They'll either be here or on YouTube.
Yep, exactly. So some lectures on Zoom and some lectures on YouTube. Exactly. So I'm going to do some live lectures and some on YouTube. So talking more about that, either they're going to be live like today on Zoom, or I'm going to pre-record a lecture from a different section, and I'm going to host it on YouTube Premiere, where we'll all come together at the same class time that we usually do. It's not like you can just watch it whenever you want. You have to watch it during class time, but it'll go to a YouTube link instead. And then we'll watch the lecture together, and we'll answer questions through YouTube chat. We'll answer questions through Slack chat. The TAs and I will still be around and live, and we'll be able to help you however you need help with that. You can find the URL of each lecture on the syllabus, and I'll post the YouTube links as well. Or the easier option is just go to http://001.cs490lecture.com. That'll automatically take you to the right link. Whether that's Zoom or YouTube, it'll automatically get you to the right place. Make sense? Cool. And then the last question is, what are the 4 course philosophies? Anybody have thoughts? You can just type them into the Zoom chat. Respect. Yep. And Vaishnavi typed that out Aretha Franklin style. So I appreciate that. Equality, inclusivity. Yep. We have making mistakes and feedback. Yep. Okay, sweet. Let's talk about all of these. So inclusivity is we're going to try to create an environment where all voices are welcome, acknowledged, and heard. So what that means is we don't want to stifle anyone's voice. We don't want to tell anyone that they shouldn't be saying something, or that they shouldn't be that they shouldn't be asking questions or anything like that. We want to acknowledge their questions. We want to acknowledge their concerns and respond to them respectfully. On that same page, we want to respect each other's thoughts and opinions, even if we disagree. So I want to give you like an example of this. if I asked you for feedback on this lecture overall, let's go with a different example because I'll go over feedback in a second. But with respect, I don't want anyone to talk about, you know, how someone looks today. I don't want someone to talk about like I don't know, like you're not very good at this. You need to try harder, things like that. Being respectful is going to be a cornerstone of this class, and not being respectful is going to be pretty problematic. With feedback, even when we disagree, we want to provide friendly, constructive, and actionable feedback to each other and to our peers. And that includes me as well. So what I mean by this is, let's say that you didn't like today's lecture. I don't want you to message me and be like, hey, I didn't like today's lecture. I hate CS490. I hate you. You're ugly and you need to stop teaching. Like, that's not productive. That's not going to help anyone get better. It's not going to help me adjust how I teach. And if you come at me with like really negative feedback that's not nice, I'm automatically going to be defensive because I'm going to be like, oh my God, I'm feeling attacked right now. So instead of doing that, let's do something very different. Hey, Suresh, I don't appreciate what you did in lecture today because it didn't feel very engaging to me. Maybe one way that you could keep engaging people is by, I don't know, calling on us whenever we have questions. Maybe one way you could help us is by having more interactive animations. Giving me actionable feedback will help me adjust my methodology. Does that make sense? And this is very important with your peers, even more so than it matters for feedback to me. Any questions on that? Or on any of those 4 questions so far? Okay. And then the last point that I wanted to talk about is making mistakes. So making mistakes is super important, both in this class as well as in software engineering. So we're going to feel empowered to make mistakes and feel supported when we do, both by peers as well as from me. So what I mean by that is I messaged all of you with the wrong time for the class twice. And that wasn't great. It probably caused a lot of confusion on your side. I'm hoping that you support me through that and you help me realize like, hey, you know, mistakes happen, that's okay, and we'll move forward from that. What I want you to do is feel like this is a safe space where you're allowed to make mistakes, where you're allowed to learn from your mistakes and you'll grow from them. That's one of the most important things in software engineering. You should be allowed to make mistakes and people around you should support you whenever you are making those mistakes. Does that make sense? Any thoughts on any of our 4 core philosophies? Nothing? All right, let's keep going then. Cool, let's talk about grading. I know that's what you're all here for. So let's talk about the grades. So the grades are going to be broken down into projects, assignments, the midterm, and the final. So the projects are going to be 60%. Your assignments are going to be 25% of your total grade. And that's going to include short in-class homework, not quizzes, sorry. And then the midterm and the final are 7.5% each. One thing that I want to talk about that's not in the syllabus and is very important actually is, sorry, my mirroring keeps cutting out. Okay, sorry. So one thing that I want to talk about with grading is the traditional way of grading is at least 80% of the grade is going to be based on whether you get the answer right or wrong. And then maybe 20% maximum is going to be on the thought process. And like, usually it's closer to 0. You don't get any points for like how you thought about the answer. The way that we're going to approach it in this class is the correct answer only gets about 55 to 60% of the credit, And the learning and the thought process behind how you got to that answer is going to be 40 to 45%. So this is going to be the thought process. It's going to be how you overcame the mistakes you made, recognizing the mistakes you made, how you overcame some of the problems or blockers that you had, asking me for help, asking in the Slack channel, and explaining your successes and learnings. So this could come in the format of, on certain projects, we might have like a write-up that's tied to it where you actually explain through these things, or it might be in the form of a quick like 10-minute interview or something where you actually talk about these things out loud with me or a TA. So that's going to be a lot of points. It's going to be 40 to 45% of your total grade on these projects and potentially some of the homeworks as well. So one thing to note here is if you get the correct answer and you have no idea how you got there, you're going to get a 55% on a project, you're going to fail it. But if you can actually attempt to explain how you got there and you were actually able to explain all the different steps that you took, then that's going to be super important. One more thing that I don't have a slide for is these projects are going to be worth like 10 points, 20 points, and 30 points respectively. So let me actually go back up here. So this is worth 10 points of your grade, but there's no maximum to how many points you could earn. So if you did an amazing job on project one and you just did like something more incredible than anything I've ever seen before, I might give you a 20 out of 10 on that. You might get 10 points of extra credit just by doing an amazing job on project one. I'm not going to define like a scope of what is more than extraordinary. I'm going to define a scope of what you need to do to earn 10 points. And it's your job to figure out what's more above and beyond that. Same with the final project, same with project two. You can exceed my expectations and earn extra points however you want, basically, by doing more features, by doing more work than was required. So you could potentially earn like 50 out of 20 on project two if you just completely blow us away. It's going to be a lot of work and you would have to do an incredibly, like an insanely good job on project two. I doubt that you would really get 50 out of 20, but it is possible technically for you to build something out of this world. All right. Grading for assignments, we're not going to grade any late assignments. There are enough assignments where you can miss a few and it won't really affect your grade or anything like that. But you should still do them all because each one is going to be directly tied to your projects. Awesome. Any questions at all about anything we've covered in lecture so far? Please tell me there's at least one question, or else I'm going to think everyone's asleep at 1:30 p.m. Raimundo, is that a question?
I think it's very straightforward for now.
Okay, sounds good. Can I give you an idea of what projects 1 and 2 will be? Sure. So project 1 is, well, I'm still working on it, but project 1 is going to be related to making like a simple thing that uses an API to either fetch like a recipe or a music, like a song or something, and then just displays it. It's going to be an introduction to different tools. It should be fairly straightforward. Project 2, I have no idea what it will be yet. So I'll be working on that. I saw a hand raised. Was there someone else who had a question? Okay. And any other questions we had? Will all the lectures be posted to YouTube like they were in 435? Yep. I will be posting them all to YouTube, and some of them will actually only be posted on YouTube, and there won't be a live one. So yeah, I will definitely post them as I did in 435. I'll send out the links and everything, and I'll let you know where the links are. It'll be very clear and transparent. Cool. Did I take attendance today? Yes. Attendance will be taken silently. Basically, my TA will be screenshotting the participants at some point. We won't tell you when. It could be, you know, anytime, like at 12:30 p.m. I might screenshot the attendance. And if you weren't there at 12:30 p.m., you might not get credit. Today it was some other time. I don't remember when. I don't even know what the times will be, but Sean will be screenshotting the attendance, and then we'll also be cross-checking that with who did their homework. You can't get full points by only doing the homework, but you have to be both in class and be doing the homework at the same time. Make sense? So all of you got attendance credit, and you will get some credit today for doing the syllabus quiz as well. Sweet. AWS Cloud 9, let's talk about this. Actually, before I move forward, we're going to be using, will all projects use React? No, only project 2 will be guaranteed to use React. Project 3 can use React, but project 3 is you can build whatever you want for project 3, and it's a group project. So you can use React, you can decide to make a mobile app, you can decide not to use, you can use HTML and CSS, whatever you want really for the last project. But it's completely up to you and the rest of your group on what technologies. That being said, I would recommend using React for the last project just because all of you know React and you don't have to learn like a different technology or something like that. Last semester at Morgan State, someone did build someone did build a mobile app, so that's also possible. JavaScript or TS, like TypeScript, I don't care. Whatever you want. We're going to be teaching JavaScript in the class, but you can use TypeScript if you want to. What if you don't, someone asks, what if I don't know React? Well, that's the point of the class. You'll learn how to learn technologies. I'm not going to teach you I'm not going to teach you much about React. We're going to have one lecture on it. But what we're going to do is empower you with the skills to learn technologies yourself. Just to be sure, only one person has to submit the syllabus quiz. Yes, as long as all 3 people's names are in there, then you're good to go. Cool. Let's move into AWS Cloud 9 unless someone else has other questions. Cool. So AWS Cloud 9 is going to be the IDE that we use in this class. And today we're going to talk about setup. I haven't sent you invites. I haven't sent you invites for AWS Cloud 9 yet. I'm going to send those after class today, but I want to go through these slides before you do anything because the setup is super important. So anyone who just completely tuned me out and hasn't been paying attention, please tune in right now. This is probably one of the most important things in the semester. And if you just completely tuned out or you're doing other things, come back. Get off of Reddit, get off of YouTube, like come back and pay attention right now for the next 7 minutes. It's going to be super important, and if you mess this up, it could directly impact like how your projects work and stuff like that. So AWS Cloud 9 is a cloud-based IDE, and it's super, super cool. The TAs really liked it, I really like it. It's a really, really amazing and powerful technology. I was able to get everyone in this class $50 of credits on AWS Cloud 9 for this class. But if you set it up wrong, you will burn through your $50 in credits in like a month, and you won't be able to do anything. You won't be able to do your projects or anything like that, and that would really suck, and I don't even know how we'd fix that. So what we're going to do instead is I'm going to give you some very detailed instructions, and you're going to read through all of the directions, and then I'm going to send you an invite. And then once I send the invite, you're going to follow these directions exactly correctly. So let's go through the instructions. So first, you're going to join AWS using the invite link that you will receive via email. You can ping Cloud9 if you haven't received it by the end of the day. Then you have to verify your email, and then you follow the rest of the steps exactly the way that it's written. If you have any questions, please ask in Cloud9. Messing up could result in you running out of AWS credits and not being able to use Cloud9 for projects, and that would really, really suck, and I don't want that to happen to anyone. So the first step that we're going to do after we verify that you like logged in and stuff like that is you're going to head to aws.amazon.com, etc. Click on that link. Then you're going to sign in. And then after you sign in the top right menu, click AWS account. Then you're going to sign in. You're going to click this big orange button that says AWS Educate Starter Account. Sorry, my screen. Okay, there we go. Then this is super important. Click on My Classes in the top bar and select number 2, NJIT CS 9D Software Engineering. you should see $50 in remaining credits. Then you click the blue AWS console button on the right. And then if you have a pop-up blocker, you might have to disable it. I didn't have to do that, but some of my TAs had problems with that. So make sure you disable the pop-up blocker. Then this will take you to AWS's console. And once you're there, you'll type in Cloud9 and you'll click on the selection. So you'll click Cloud9 and it'll bring you to this new website where you'll click the Create Environment orange button. Then now this is super important, so please pay attention here. You're gonna fill out the name and you can fill out a description if you want. You can name it whatever you want. You can name it, like I would stick to something like Akash's CS490 workspace. Whatever your name is, just put your name there. And then you click next step. Now these are the important steps. These are the default values, but you have to make sure that they're right. Otherwise, it's going to cost you a lot of money, like not real money. It's just going to get rid of your $50 very quickly, and that would be problematic. So follow these exactly right. So first, you want to create a new EC2 instance that says direct access. Then you click t2.micro, and it should say 1 gig RAM, and it should be the one that says free tier eligible. Then the platform should be Amazon Linux. And then the cost saving measure, this is the most important one. The cost saving setting should say after 30 minutes. And it should be the default, it should say after 30 minutes. If you change that to anything else, you'll run out of credits. So it has to say after 30 minutes. And this is super important. So make sure it says after 30 minutes before clicking next step. Again, cost saving settings has to say after 30 minutes, which basically means it's going to hibernate after 30 minutes of no activity. So make sure it says after 30 minutes, then click next step. So you should confirm 3 things here. It should say t2.micro, Amazon Linux, and after 30 minutes. After confirming, you have to take a screenshot like the one to the right. You need to submit this for the Canvas assignment. And this is one of the 2 screenshots that you have to submit. So make sure you send a screenshot that has the after 30 minutes that already indicated in it. If everything is right, click the orange button to create the environment. And that should take you to the IDE itself. So this should be an in-browser IDE. And it's a very, very powerful IDE. It's super helpful. And it's super great because you can access it, I can access it. So if something's not working, I can just log into your IDE and see what's not working myself. So that's the beauty of Cloud9, and that's why we're going to be using that in class. So the second screenshot you're going to do is just code up hello-world.py. So in Python, just code up hello world, figure out how to run that, and then take a screenshot of that. Submit those 2 screenshots, the one of the confirmation and the one of hello world. Submit those on Canvas, and then you will get credit for that assignment as well. Sweet. Any questions on Cloud9 before we move forward? And just to be clear, you haven't received an invite yet, but you'll probably receive them in the next half hour.
All these instructions will be sent to us as well, right?
Yes, their instructions are already on Canvas, and they're
Okay.
also in the lecture 1 slides.
Okay.
There isn't a Cloud9 channel. There should be. Yeah, there is. There's a Cloud9 channel. I'm surprised you can't find it. Maybe there was like a typo or something.
Yeah, I can't see it either.
Wow, that's very strange. Okay. I'm super confused because there's like a bunch of people in it already. So we'll figure it out. If you press Control K or Command K, you might be able to add yourself to Cloud9 there. Oh yeah, so it's different than Discord. In Discord, all the channels show up automatically. You have to add yourself manually. Yes, thank you for that note. Yeah, so you have to add yourself manually to the channel. Okay, sweet. Next time in CS490, so there's a couple things. Before next class, you should finish your syllabus quiz, and that will be your attendance points. You won't get credit unless you also sign up for Slack. So make sure you sign up for Slack, you are in class, and you finish your syllabus quiz. Before next class, make sure to take your diagnostic test as well. And that's going to be super important for me to figure out what you do and don't know. Don't worry if it's hard. You'll get 100 as long as you do it and you put in a decent amount of effort to it as well. And then before next class, finish setting up Cloud 9. So follow the directions exactly from slides 44 to 56. This is going to be super important because we're going to be using Cloud 9 starting next week. So let's finish setting up Cloud 9 as well. And then during next class, we're actually going to talk about what software engineering is, and we're actually going to design an app and how it'll work and stuff like that. After next class, we'll start deep diving into specific technologies and start building our repertoire of different tools that we can have in order to build awesome technologies. And that is it for today's class. I'll stick around for like 2-3 more minutes and answer any questions. I do have office hours from 2 to 4 p.m. today, so feel free to hop in, say hi, and ask any questions you might have as well. But you can ask questions now as well if you want to. What should I learn and master before starting project 1? I'd like a head start on teaching myself technologies. That sounds great. This has been a very common question. I feel like maybe 10 to 20 people have asked me this. I will set up, or actually I don't need to set up anything because it's in your syllabus. So the technologies that you're going to be using are in the topics on the course schedule. So if you turn to page 12 of your syllabus, that should say, like we have Linux Bash, we have HTML frameworks, authorization and APIs, etc. And if you cross-check that with the tools in the syllabus, so I think that is on page 2, the tools will give you a link that will teach you, just give you some documentation and stuff like that, and you can start reading through that. So you can start with that, and then if you still have questions or those tools aren't super helpful, then you can just ping me, or you can just ping the general chat basically and ask if anyone has a better tutorial, and I'm sure they can give it to everyone. And yes, Sean, great call out. Doing the diagnostic will give you an idea of what you might or might not be familiar with. Seems like a lot of people know Git pretty well, and pretty much no one knows Vim. So you'll be able to familiarize yourself with those different things. So I would start by taking the diagnostic before doing anything else. Yep. Any other questions? Cool. I will send the link for AWS Cloud 9 in just a few minutes. Please make sure to follow the directions and do these 3 things for homework before I see you tomorrow. Thank you. Bye.
All right, Professor. Have a good one.
You too.
Have a good day.